All right, buckle up for a deep dive today. One that, well, takes us on a real journey.
A journey. I like that.
We're diving into Goat Days, this novel by Benyamin. And it throws us right into Najeeb's world. He's a guy from Kerala, India.
Okay, yeah.
Now, this isn't just any made-up story, though. It's actually inspired by real events, And get this, we're going to be going through all these emotions and experiences as we follow Najeeb. So the question is, are you ready to see what we can learn from all this? About, resilience and the crazy ways life can change.
Absolutely. This book really pulls you into a world I think most of us can't even imagine. What really got me was how Benjamin uses, fiction to shine a light on these migrant workers' lives in the Gulf region, I mean. It's a story that, could easily get lost in the news and all that. But through Najeeb's eyes, it becomes really personal.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just reading some boring report. We're stepping right into Najeeb's shoes.
Oh, okay.
And so we start in Kerala, where he's working. He's a sand miner. He's newly married and about to be a dad.
Yeah.
But he's struggling financially. I think we've all felt that. Wanting a better life for our families.
Right, absolutely. And that's where the whole Gulf thing comes in. It's like they say it's this land of opportunity, Earn enough money to build a good future. And Najeeb, he buys into it. He's picturing, a comfortable life for his wife, Sainu, and their kid.
He even has, specific things in mind, doesn't he?
Yes.
A gold watch, a fridge, a TV, those things that say, hey, we've made it. But what really stood out to me was Sainu and how she reacts. She's content with a simple life, just being together, it makes you think about, well, what is a good life? How do we define that?
It does. It really does. It makes you question what matters, when things get tough. But anyway, Najeeb, he takes off with all these dreams. But Riyadh, it's a shock. That first wonder at the airport, the city, all that energy, it's gone like that. Replaced with confusion, anxiety. He can't even find his sponsor, the Arbab.
Yeah, and that journey in that beat-up vehicle, those loose doors, the bumpy ride, it's almost symbolic, isn't it? Like a physical way of showing the uncertainty of it all.
Definitely. It feels like something bad's going to happen, like a warning. And that feeling, it gets worse when Najeeb is just left in the desert, just like that. Separated from Hakeem, the guy he was traveling with.
Talk about a reality check, huh?
Yeah.
Going from dreams of city life to stranded in this empty place must have been terrifying and lonely. And what happens next? It just shows how bad things really are.
He's taken to this Masara, it's this fenced-in area with hundreds of goats, and instead the city, well, he's a goat herder now, in this brutal environment. And then he meets this guy, this worker, kind of a scary dude, honestly. And this guy, he's the one who tells him, there's no bathroom, it's scorching hot, and the Arbab, cruel.
It's just bleak. It really makes you think about how vulnerable these workers are. Najeeb can't do anything. He's completely dependent on the Arbab. No way to get help. Isolated. It's a nightmare.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see his resilience. He's got to learn how to herd goats, be on alert all the time, because they're unpredictable. It's hard work, physically, emotionally, especially, missing his wife and this son he hasn't even met. It's a lot to deal with, this new reality, being away from your loved ones.
It's heartbreaking. It makes you wonder how anyone can find hope in that situation. But Najeeb does, and it's pretty unexpected.
In the goats.
He finds solace in the goats.
Yeah, in the goats. It's kind of incredible, isn't it?
It is.
In this horrible place with no one, he finds connection with the animals he's supposed to be taking care of. He gives them names. He talks to them like they're his friends, not just, animals. And there's this one part, it really gets to you. Najeeb helps a baby goat be born, and he names him Nabil. And he cares for this little goat like he's his own son.
Wow. That's a powerful image. It says a lot about Najeeb, Even though he's suffering, he can still love, be compassionate. It makes you think about how we connect, how we find meaning in the strangest places.
Yeah.
Especially when we're all alone.
Yeah. It shows how strong humans can be, how we adapt and find joy, even when things are bad. But even with this solace, Najeeb never forgets he wants to be free. He has these little moments with the outside world, truck drivers, workers who come to the Mazara. But when he tries to talk, to get help, they don't care, or they're scared.
He's so isolated, trapped in the system, invisible.
Right. And then something happens. This guy, Ibrahim Kadiri, another worker, he shows up and he gives Najeeb hope. A way out.
And so they escape.
Yeah, with Hakeem. They run through the desert, at night. It's dangerous, but they're desperate. They want to be free. But escaping, it has its own dangers. I mean, they're in the desert, they have nothing, and they're always afraid of being caught. And then there's this part. Benyamin describes it as a snake army, this huge swarm of snakes just slithering through the desert. It's scary. It shows how dangerous their surroundings are.
It shows how unforgiving the world is. Even when you escape one bad situation, you're still vulnerable. And Hakeem, he doesn't make it. He dies from the conditions. It's another loss for Najeeb.
Yeah, it's really sad. It shows how high the stakes are. Losing Hakeem after they shared all that, the Masara, the escape, it must have been awful for Najeeb.
It must have. But they do find a little bit of refuge. At an oasis in the middle of the desert, it gives them water, a little break.
A moment of peace before they have to keep going. But then something else happens. Ibrahim, he vanishes.
Vanishes, just like that.
Yeah.
Gone.
And Najeeb's alone again. To finish the journey by himself, it's almost too much after everything he's been through.
I can't imagine how he felt. The despair, the loneliness. But he still wants to survive.
He does. He keeps going. He wants to live. He wants to see his family. And finally, when he's almost given up, he finds a road. It's like a symbol, you know, civilization, a way back.
A turning point. Relief, but also what next?
Yeah.
What happens then shows there's still good in the world, even in the most unexpected places.
Right. Najeeb meets this Arab man, and the man gives him a ride back to the city. It's a small thing, but it means so much.
It does. But getting back, it's not easy. He's detained. It shows how even though he's escaped the Masara, he's not really free.
Not yet. He finally gets to call his family. And the call with Sainu, his wife, it's heartbreaking. He finds out he has a son he's never met, but his mother, she died while he was gone.
It's so much at once. The joy of a son, the grief of losing his mother, and so much time has passed.
It must have all hit him then. Years gone, relationships changed, his whole life different.
And then the identification parade. Everything depends on this. Will his Arbab recognize him? Send him back.
But then something unexpected happens. The Arbab doesn't point him out. Najeeb's is free to go.
Free? After all that? It's hard to believe. So much hardship, uncertainty, and then this.
Yeah. It shows how unpredictable life is, how there's always hope, even when things seem dark. But what really stays with you is Najeeb's strength, how he adapted, how he found meaning in suffering.
It shows how much we can endure, how strong we are even when we don't realize it. It makes me think about my own life, the challenges I've faced. Could I be that strong? What about you?
It's a story that makes you think, makes you appreciate the things we take for granted, like freedom, family, just being connected to people.
Goat Days makes you think about a lot of things. About migrant workers, about the dangers of wanting a better life, about, exploitation, human rights. It makes you look beyond yourself and see the world in a new way, with more empathy.
Yes. And it reminds you of the power of stories, how they can show us things we don't know about and give a voice to people who are often ignored.
There's one more thing I want to mention before we finish this part. Benyamin, he based this novel on a true story,
Yes. He met a man, also named Najeeb, who told him about his experiences in the Gulf. That's how the book started.
It's even more powerful, knowing it's real. It's not just a made-up story. It's what happened to someone.
It makes you think about all the stories we don't hear, the voices that are silenced, the things that happen that we never know about.
And it shows how important it is to find these stories.
Yeah.
To make sure those voices are heard. So we've gone through Najeeb's, his whole journey with him. What does it all mean for us? What can we, learn from him about resilience and people and how life can change so fast?
For me, it's the hope. Even when things were so bad, so awful, Najeeb never lost hope. He always believed he'd see his family again, that he'd go home. That's what kept him going.
He didn't know how he'd escape or when, but he never gave up on that hope. It makes you think, what do we hold on to when things are tough? What gives us hope?
And how he adapted. I mean, he had to learn a whole new life. Sand miner to goat herder. He had to learn new skills, deal with so much hardship, and even, find a way to care about these goats.
It's those things we take for granted, right? Being free, being safe, just being treated like a human being. Najeeb had to fight for all of that. It reminds us that these aren't just words. They're real things that people are struggling for all over the world.
It makes you look at the world differently, doesn't it? You see the struggles of other people. You understand how complicated it is, this idea of a better life.
Yeah, it does. But Benjamin doesn't just show us the bad stuff. There's also good. Kindness, resilience, how strong people can be. Najeeb's story, even with all the pain, it leaves you feeling, I don't know, hopeful. Like, even in the darkest times, there's this strength inside us and this ability to connect that maybe we don't even know we have.
And that's what's so powerful about Goat Days. It shows you the hard things, but it also shows how strong and good people can be even when they're suffering. It makes you think about your own life, your own strength, and the world we live in.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Goat Days. It's a story that'll stay with me. And for anyone listening, I'd really recommend reading it. It'll make you think, it'll make you feel things, and you won't forget it.
As you think about Najeeb, think about this too. What are your stories? What experiences have shaped you, made you who you are?
Think about it. You might be surprised what you find. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking for those stories that bring us all together.